Hello again, everybody, and welcome to 4 Star Chicago Sports. This is the Northside Nine, and we got a packed show. We're talking about MVPs. Can the Cubs sustain long-term success in Chicago? I think they can. They're built a little differently. And we'll get into some news and nuggets, take our trip down to the farm, and take a look ahead right after this. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to 4 Star Chicago Sports. And man, do we got a packed Northside Nine for you guys today. We are locked and loaded. We're going to take you up to first pitch, maybe a little bit into the game, but we're not going to keep you too long. So if you are joining us, we really do appreciate you spending a little time on this beautiful Saturday in Chicago. Kyle, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
Vizzo Joe, thanks for joining us. I hope we can get that W today because yesterday the Chicago Cubs ran into a juggernaut. And when I say a juggernaut, Andrew Abbott is having one of the better months I've seen in baseball in a long time. Sometimes you just run into a buzzsaw. He pitched 7 shutout innings, striking out 8, walking 1 in his first 5th win of the season. The Cubs just had 3 hard hit balls off of him, 2 flyouts from Horner and Tucker, and a base hit in the 3rd inning from Justin Turner. So hopefully today they can get to Nick Lodolo. We faced him last Sunday. He went 5 innings, gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, gave up a long ball, walked 2. The Cubs this year are 18-11 versus left-handers. So hopefully we can get to Nick Lodolo and we don't see Andrew Abbott again. For the love, back-to-back lefties. So I haven't seen the lineup yet that is coming out, although my marquee network froze again. Shocker. This is the cheapest network. I swear to God, the Chicago Cubs and this marquee network pisses me off every freaking day. I pay for this and it freezes on me constantly during the ball games. It is just ridiculous. I can't even watch the pregame right now. It's unbelievable. Kyle, what are your thoughts? So all of us were wrong. Bruce had the Cubs undefeated. We had them with 1 loss. They suffered their 2nd loss of the week yesterday. So we're all losers this week. You think the Cubs bounce back today and this afternoon game against the Cincinnati Reds?
Yeah, it's a tough one to predict, Sean. I mean, Drew Pomeranz has been awesome, but he hasn't been asked to start. And, it's kind of troublesome to me that they're doing this. I mean, I know that they're kind of running out of options here, but if it's not broke, don't fix it, And Drew Pomeranz has been absolutely amazing. Now you're going to ask him to start a game. I don't know how many innings they're going to ask him to go. I'm going to guess 3 or 4. If he does that and he ends up having a bad game, does that continue to snowball into the future? And then we lose the Drew Pomeranz we've seen for the last 3 months here. I don't know, Sean. It's going to be a tough one. I got the lineup in front of me here, though, Sean. It's going to be Happ, Tucker, Suzuki, Carson Kelly, Pete Crow-Armstrong, Swanson, Horner, Turner, and Shaw.
So they'll continue to take Michael Busch out against left-handed pitching. I'd like to see him get a couple starts myself against left-handed pitching just to see if he has improved at all against it. I mean, benching him every game against left-handers, you're not going to improve. And I'll be honest, right now, he came in, pinch hitter, hit a triple yesterday. And the offense is struggling. It was a struggle versus the Rockies. It was a struggle yesterday. I mean, as we just said, it was 7, 1-hit innings for Andrew Abbott. Outside of the fact this guy is pitching out of his freaking mind right now. And sometimes it happens. You just run into a buzzsaw, and that's unfortunate. But the Cubs couldn't hit that awful Rockies pitching staff. We all knew these slumps were going to happen during the season. I didn't foreshadow seeing one against the Rockies pitching staff, but unfortunately it did. Hopefully these things can get hot. These bats can get hot today against the Cincinnati Reds. A little news for a couple of news pieces, and I'm sure everybody saw he came in, had 3 strikeouts and a walk yesterday, but our boy Genesis Cabrera finalized a 1-year deal. The left-hander was DFA'd from the Mets last week, and he was obviously came out of the bullpen in the yesterday. The corresponding move, Brooks Krisk was DFA'd. I'm sure he'll show up back in AAA. A little bit about Cabrera. He's got a fastball velocity around 96. It complements his slider and changeup. It could make him a versatile piece. He does struggle with control at times. It's definitely been a challenge for him, but he does have strikeout ability and experience in high leverage situations. He's pitched for the Blue Jays. He's pitched for the Deadbirds down south. I trust Hadavi to get him going. So, Kyle, I'm 50-50 on this. He looked okay yesterday. That fastball was kind of all over the place. What are your thoughts? Do you think that this guy could be a guy who can help solidify the bullpen even more, because the bullpen is turning around a little bit?
Yeah, Sean, I like the signing, and I know a lot of these Cubs signings where they're kind of like desperation, where they sign somebody who's been struggling or had an average career, and they expect to get the best out of them. But he's actually been pretty good for his career. I mean, he's basically around a 3.5 ERA for his career. If you can get that out of him this season, I mean, he's just going to eat up innings. Even if it could be in a situation like yesterday where the Cubs were down by 6 runs, you're probably not going to win that game. You just need somebody to eat up some innings. I have no problem with them signing Cabrera. I think it was a good signing. It kind of reminds me of the Tyson Miller signing from a couple of years ago. And maybe he could come here and have a better finish of the season than he's had for the previous of his career. I mean, right now the Cubs need arms, Sean. They're running out of.
Yeah.
I mean, Cade Horton. Porter Hodge, Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, Tyson Miller is still out. Javier Assad's out. You got to get innings from
some. Find something
for a guy who was free for the Cubs at a 3.5 ERA. That's not a bad signing.
Yeah, we got a couple of new guys in here. Jeff, never seen you before. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for checking us out. We greatly appreciate it. We also have, I just missed his name. Where did it go? Oops. What is this? Strangiato 2011. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Strangiato. Scott Angel's in here.
What's up, Scotty? Nice to see you back, man. Missed your last couple shows. Glad you're joining us this afternoon. And Jeff says the boys break out today. I'm gonna really, really hope so. Because I'm really missing. I'm really missing seeing these fun scoring days that the Cubs have been having throughout the year.
Well, Sean, against the Reds, I mean, do you almost control your own destiny here a little bit? I mean, if the Reds could lose, say, 10 of their next 15, do they become sellers of the trade deadline? Because they've got some damn good starting pitchers. And if they were looking to move on from one of those guys, if I were the Cubs, I would be seriously interested, especially in a guy like Abbott or Green, because the Reds keep on putting the same team on the field year in, year out, and they just keep falling short of expectations. At some point, either they need to add to the bullpen and go all in, or they need to blow this thing up and restart. And if they're willing to blow it up, if I were the Cubs, I'd keep a close, watchful eye on some of these starting pitchers the Reds have, because the Cubs need somebody desperately.
Yeah, and I did look up some of these starting pitchers that on some of these bottom feeding teams that were under 300 or under 500, like Toronto, the Rangers, the Mariners. If we're gonna make this push, this is something that really irked me, because all the chatter coming into the season was Cubs are going to add Corbin Burns. Then he signs that, I think, 5 or 6 year deal for $200 million with the Diamondbacks. Got a 2-year no trade clause connected to that. I mean, how valuable would that piece be for the Chicago Cubs right now? There is a name, though, that was kicked around, and that was Kevin Guzman from the Toronto Blue Jays. He's got like a 330 earned run average. He's hovering right around a 90 whip. He's got a 3 or 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Definitely someone you can add and help the rotation. I just don't see that front end superstar out there that the Cubs would need, in my mind, to make this push towards the World Series. You need that shutdown guy that can come in, give you 7 solid innings. Missing Justin Steele and not being able to replace him, ultimately, in my mind, might be the detriment and the end of the Chicago Cubs in 2025. I did see Shota yesterday on the field. He was doing like hip hip flexing and running around and kind of zigzagging. So it looks like he's getting pretty close to getting back. And God, do the Cubs need him really, really bad. Kyle, was there any names that you see out there, starting pitchers, that you would want before we jump into some of these topics on the show?
Well, I mean, Sean, there's about a million names we could talk about. At the end of the day, it's really impossible to tell, because since the MLB has expanded this play, how many playoff teams are in the playoffs. I mean, since they've expanded that playoff bracket, there's just not as many sellers as there used to be. The trade market's gotten a lot weaker than it used to be in years past. And you heard Jed Hoyer talk about that. What's concerning is Jed Hoyer says everybody thinks we're going to zig and we're probably going to end up zagging. Like, to me, that means everybody thinks we're going to add this stud front end starter. We're not going to do that. We're probably going to add somebody who can eat up some innings, like a number 3 or 4 in the rotation, and hoping Imanaga can come back healthy and be your ace. But I mean, the Cubs, to me, if I'm a Cubs fan this year, I would expect more of an Isaac Paredes, a name of that notoriety when it comes to a pitcher, rather than like an Aroldis Chapman or Nick Castellanos. I just don't think the Cubs are going to go all in this year. I think they're going to try to find somebody kind of like they have in the years past, like David Robertson, Drew Pomeranz, Jake Arrieta. Hopefully find one of these guys that's been kind of just stuck in no man's land, bring him here, and he pitches better than he ever has before. I think that's kind of who the Cubs have become, Sean. They're just always looking for a diamond in the rough. At some point, you're probably going to have to part ways with some of this farm system and go get a stud. And like I said, Sean, keep an eye on teams like the Reds, who are like those fringe teams that could make a wild card right now. But if they end up losing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row or something like that at some point, which I know that's asking a lot, but if they do, there's some pitching on that team I'd keep an eye on. Minnesota maybe has a couple pitchers I'd keep an eye on.
Pablo
but
Lopez.
Sean, when 90% of the league makes the playoffs, it's kind of tough. I mean, how many sellers are there going to be at the trade deadline this year?
You know, Kyle, I came up with a couple of wild ideas here, and I know we're in need of a top end starter. Okay, and piggybacks are a band-aid, kind of like what the Cubs are going to do today. But until you can make a trade towards the trade deadline and solidify that rotation, I had a couple of ideas for piggybacks. You're getting Assad back here in the next couple of weeks. Maybe you can do, Assad, you get him back, or you start flexing as the starter. You get 4 or 5 innings out of him. You bring in Assad. He can work 2 or 3 innings. You can piggyback like they're doing today, Pomeranz and Brown, because it seems Brown, as we talked about last week, his earned run average goes through the roof 3rd time through the order. And I think that's the purpose of the start today, is so he doesn't face that heart of the order 3 times. To get him through twice, then you get to the back end of the bullpen, which has become very trustworthy for the Cubs as of the last month. And then you can use Horton and maybe in piggybacks with him too, an open bullpen type day where whoever's available can come and piggyback off of him if he can't get out of 5 or his pitch count's a little up, which we did see in his first couple starts. He was able to limit it in his last one. What do you think, big picture here, and as I said, these are Band-Aids, but something that the Cubs might need to get through until they can make that trade. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas because I'm lost with this rotation. And I'm going to show you guys why I'm lost with this rotation, because this month has not been favorable for the Chicago Cubs. As you see, the bullpen's earned run average has dipped immensely. And you got our 4 starters right there on the screen. I left Cade Horton off because he's relatively new. But this rotation of 506 earned run average, 27th in the Major League Baseball as of this past month. What do you think of piggybacking and trying to fix this until we get to that end of July deadline?
Well, Sean, they don't have an option. This is what happens when you bargain shop in the offseason. Then you run into these problems, and now you're trying to kind of duct tape this whole thing together. I mean, if in a perfect world for me, obviously Justin Steele not being out for the season, but outside of that, in a perfect world, I'd say your starting rotation is Imanaga, Tyon, Boyd, Horton, and Assad, and then you have Ben Brown and Colin Ray as those long inning reliever type guys. Now, if you need a spot start here and there, Sean, like you said, maybe a combination of Flexen and Pomeranz, but what the Cubs need is for some of these guys to get back to full health. I mean, they need the Tyson Millers of the world. They need the Javier Assads of the world. I think that the Cubs' future rotation for the rest of 2025 at least is already in the building. Like I said, they might add somebody at the trade deadline, but I don't think it's going to be some name of huge notoriety. I don't think they're going to trade for one of these 5-year, $250 million contracts. That's just not the Cubs. They've never done it before. So you got to play the odds, right? History repeats itself. I'm assuming the Cubs are probably going to start bargain shopping at the trade deadline. But Sean, I would expect this rotation in 2025, if they all get healthy and you go into the playoffs, I think the rotation would be something like Imanaga, Tyon, Boyd, Horton, and Assad. To me, that would be the road. That's your best case scenario. I mean, Assad, his first 2 seasons in the majors had basically a 3 ERA flat. Last year, he fell off a little bit with a 3.7, but nothing crazy. He still looked good. I know a lot of people are like, well, Assad gets himself into trouble a lot. Yeah, well, he also gets himself out of trouble a lot. Until he stops doing that, I'm just going to keep trusting him. I think Cade Horton's going to get better as the season goes on. I think Cade Horton's probably going to finish somewhere around 4 or 5 ERA in between there, but you're going to see ups and downs. And as long as maybe you get him, maybe when you get in the playoffs, you get him on a good streak where he's pitching really well. And then obviously Sean, Tyon's been better than he has in years past. I think Tyon right now is actually probably the guy the Cubs are leaning on the most because he's kind of become the makeshift ace of this rotation. And all you can hope is that Imanaga comes back. And we talked about this 100 times, Sean. Matthew Boyd's kind of a conundrum to me because you see in 2022, he finished with a sub-2 ERA. Then 2023, it was like a 5.5. And then in 2024, it was like a sub-3. I think it was a 2.5. So if you can get the Matthew Boyd around a 2.5, 3 ERA, if you get that guy, that's another good guy going into the playoffs in your rotation. And Matthew Boyd has been a pleasant surprise to me. Sean, I said I did not love the signing when they made it, but he has been kind of the heart of this rotation. I mean, since Imanaga and Steele went down, Tyon and Matthew Boyd have kind of held down the fort, man. I mean, at some point, the Cubs are going to either have to get healthy or make a trade, whether they like it or not. But they cannot go into the playoffs with the rotation of Matthew Boyd, James Tyon, and Colin Ray because they're not going to last very long. I can tell you that. I can guarantee it.
Well, I will tell you this, and for me right now, as we talk about Matthew Boyd has 5 starts at Wrigley Field. There are 5 quality starts. He is undefeated. And, if we go through this, he beat the Dodgers. He allowed 10 hits. He went 6 innings, though. Quality start, gave up 3 runs. Cubs won that game. Backed that up against the San Francisco Giants. 6 innings, 5 hits, struck out 7. Then he pitched against the White Sox. That was kind of the surprising one where he gave up 3 runs against the White Sox. I thought he was going to shut them down. Then obviously,
but the White Sox have been doing that this year too. They have every once in a while they have a game with like 8 runs. The White Sox are not the same team they were last year. I mean, are they good? No, but they are a professional baseball team. The Rockies, to be Sean, are not a professional baseball team. And Sean, I know we had this conversation the other day that you heard somebody on sports radio say that those were 3 cheap wins or whatever he said. Like, listen, wins are wins. I don't care. I don't care if you win 14-1 or 2-1. I don't care. If you can win a game in any professional sport, that's a bonus. And like I said, the Rockies are a bad team, Sean, but these are still major league players on their roster. And, they've always had trouble with Marquez. That guy has always pitched very well against the Cubs. And they found a way to sweep that series. So I don't care how they win. It doesn't matter what it looks like to me. It doesn't matter. Just win every game.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm with you. That to me, there's no such thing as a weak sweep. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a row on the professional level, whether it's a good team, a horrible team. I was really disgusted, and that was the morning show with Mulligan Hall. Mike Mulligan, to me, is starting to become insufferable. He says some of the dumbest shit I've heard. Like, dude, these are professional teams. I was like, I don't even listen to the score that much anymore because of stupid shit like that. Like, dude, you just went out and beat a baseball team at home, whatever, they only scored 9 runs. Guys, the other team's trying too.
Well, Sean, and I mean, you got glass half empty or glass half full. They only scored 9 runs and they won 3 games in a row. I mean, like if you're a good baseball team, if you want to be a team that's a championship contender, you want to compete for World Series, you need to win games however you can, no matter what it looks like, whether you win 1-0 or if you win 15-1, it doesn't matter. You need to find a way to win games, no matter how you get it done. It doesn't matter to me. I don't want to hear anything about cheap wins. You could say that about half the games in baseball every single day. There were cheap wins. How many times, Sean, have we seen teams out hit another team 12-6 and the team with 6 hits wins because they have 3 home runs? I mean, this is baseball. It's a funky sport. It's odd. And as long as the Cubs win, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. There's no such thing to me as a cheap win. Just win the damn game.
And you got to beat these teams, man. So, and that's right. Good teams beat teams like that. Losing one of those two is not acceptable. And here, to Scott's point, I dare anyone to go Google the look on Aaron Judge's face last Sunday when they lost to the Rockies. Like, he was pissed. Like,
that face was on the MLB highlights, dude. They put his face on. He was like did we just lose to the Rockies?
He came out in his post-game presser and said, yeah, we just can't lose games like this. No, you're not supposed to lose to a team with 8 freaking wins. And that's why I'm sitting here thinking like, hey, man, the Cubs just beat the team that beat the Yankees for all intents and purposes. People would say I would have a better roster than the Cubs. So, hey.
And Sean, you know what? Even though the Rockies are bad, and I'll say this is probably one of the worst teams I've seen, at least to the start of the season in the history of baseball, at least in my lifetime. But John, they're still a major league team, and they're going to have ups and downs. And if you hit them, if you get matched up with them when they're in one of their ups, they're just kind of on a little bit of a hot streak. I don't know how you could consider that for the Rockies, considering they have 10 wins. But if they are on a hot streak, then yeah, you're going to run into sometimes it's just you're a victim of circumstance. Sometimes you just run into teams at the wrong time. Like Sean, you said it earlier, we were talking about how the Washington Nationals are coming up. I mean, that team, for all intents and purposes, is not a very good baseball team, right? But if they've won 8 of their last 10, that's when you don't want to play them. That's when you do not want to see them. And unfortunately, it just kind of seems like that's the way it's been going for the Cubs. They just kind of run into everybody when they're hot. And at some point, I'd like to run into a team that's lost 6 in a row. That'd be nice.
And it's really nice to see Shota with his mid on. He's on the field. This is from 11:01 this morning. Looks like he's going to do some exercises, and he's running in the outfield. That's really great to see. So hopefully Shota's getting a little bit closer to returning to that rotation. God knows that we need it. We're going to get into this MVP talk in a minute because it's very interesting to me. And I know everyone thinks that PCA is the MVP of this team, but we're going to go inside some of these numbers. I just want to we're kind of going to go put the farm report in with sustainable future for the Chicago Cubs, because this is one thing that really intrigues me. And Kyle, I'm really into these minor leaguers. I love these shows that they have on Road to Wrigley, on Marquee. I'm intrigued by all these young kids. I collect their baseball cards and stuff like that. It's nice to see some of these guys start coming through. Now, for me, and I don't know where you stand, but when I look at this farm system now compared to 2016, I'm starting to say to myself, in 2016, a lot of those pieces, from Rizzo to Addison Russell to who else?
Kyle Schwarber, Chris Bryant.
Well, Schwarber and Bryant were drafted by the Cubs. I'm saying like the John Lesters, the Jake Arrietas. None of these guys came through the Cubs system.
No, like Jake Arrieta did a little bit. They had him down there a little bit after they traded for him. But Anthony Rizzo was sent down as well.
Jake Arrieta was a Major League Baseball player for the Baltimore Orioles for quite some time before he came to the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, he was just a struggling Major League
Baseball, correct. So this is what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at guys down on the farm like Jackson Wiggins and our boy who just got called up. He just got the call up, Will Sanders, who's having a phenomenal season at Double-A. He will be making his first Triple-A start here very shortly. 44 innings pitched, 264 earned run average, 44 strikeouts behind 8 walks, a 104 whip, and he's allowed 1 home run, but leaving people on base at a 75% clip. That is incredible, and we're going to continue to track his progress as he moves up into the major leagues. But another guy who is having a breakout season here, and we showcased him on the show, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, but now he's into Double-A and not missing a beat. He went 5 scoreless, struck out 7 the other day. I think he allowed 1 hit. But look at Jackson Wiggins' numbers. This guy is a pitcher. His balls were hitting almost 100 on the gun as well. He is developing quickly. Then, my favorite guy in the Chicago Cubs minor league system, Jefferson Rojas. This guy destroyed the month of May, absolutely annihilated it. 341, 424 on base, 588 slugging, 1.012 OBP, 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs. He is my favorite Cubs prospect over Alcantara, Cade Horton. I love this kid so much.
Well, Sean, he's really athletic too. He's a hell of a
Yeah.
defender as well. He's going to be a really good player in Major League Baseball. I like all the guys you just said, all the names on that list. Those guys are all going to probably make major league impacts at some point. But the problem is the timing. That's what the Cubs have to worry about, the timing. Who's coming up when? Is he going to be, are these guys to be ready at the same time as these guys? Or these guys, like, it's all about timing for the Cubs. And Sean, we've talked about this before on this podcast a million times. There's only two ways to win a World Series. Either you buy one like the Dodgers and Yankees do, or you got to be damn good at managing your farm system. And I think that's the way the Cubs are trying to go here. They're going the cheaper option, which means you have to bring these guys up and they all have to be good at the same time.
But as we say that, we're watching Alcantara. You know, you're going to have an expiring contract of Nico Horner, and I did not feature Christian Hernandez this week, but Christian Hernandez is hitting 280 right now. He's having a phenomenal season as well. Your new infield in the coming years should be Rojas and Hernandez. Your third base would be Matt Shaw. Your center field, obviously, PCA. Your outfield is either going to be Casey Alcantara, a mix of something. Maybe Kyle Tucker gets re-signed. We're all on the fence saying that he's not going to stay here. But what I'm saying is integrating this talent where the Cubs actually have pieces where they didn't in 2016, have pieces they can go grab off the farm and integrate into this major league team. I think they've done it right this time. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I honestly believe that this is a really good farm system with a lot of good pieces. They're not all going to hit, but they have so many pieces down there that you're going to start bringing these pieces up and you're going to see, okay, well, this guy's not hit. We have to go sign someone for that position. You don't know that all your corner outfielder are going to hit. I'm pretty confident that Hernandez and Rojas are going to hit. Michael Busch is here, that your infield for the Chicago Cubs is set for a very long time. We're not.
Well, so they have a replacement for almost every player on the field. I mean, Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara could go join PCA in the outfield. I think Moises Ballesteros could end up being your DH at some point if Seiya Suzuki decide to move on from Seiya Suzuki. I think Amaya is going to be your catcher, or at least should be. I don't think Amaya has done everything to not be your catcher. I think Amaya has been great in the last almost going on a calendar year now. I mean, Sean, you're right. You're 100% correct. Here's the question, though. Like all these Cubs fans keep saying, "Oh, the Cubs have a chance to win a World Series this year. They have a chance to win a World Series this year." So how much are you willing to risk? How much of your future are you willing to part with to try to win a championship in 2025? Because, Sean, if you believe that all those guys in the farm system are going to be the guys that ultimately bring you sustained success and possibly championships, then you can't be trading a lot of them away to try to chase a championship in 2025, especially if Kyle Tucker's not going to be here in the future. If anything, and I know Cubs fans are going to hate when I say this, and people are going to call me stupid and blah, 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 but if you honestly, Sean, if you're going into a playoff series with Colin Ray, Matthew Boyd, Shota Minaga, you're not going to win the World Series. It's not going to happen because you can't match up against Yamamoto and Ohtani and Glasnow. You just can't. It's not possible. So if I'm the Cubs and they don't do they're not willing to do anything at the trade deadline to make like a major impact to this roster, like go get one of the best starters in baseball and a relief guy. If they're not willing to do that, I'm honestly strongly considering trading Kyle Tucker. If you're not going to extend him, I mean, Sean, only the Cubs know if they're going to extend Kyle Tucker. We don't, right? We don't. You don't know. I don't know. All I know is the Cubs' biggest contract they've ever signed is somewhere around $185 million, and he wants $600 million. That's all the information I have in front of me right now. So if I'm a betting man and I play the odds more than anybody you know, Sean, I am not betting on the Cubs to give Kyle Tucker $600 million. That's just me. So if you're not willing to do that and you know you're probably not going to win a World Series in 2025 because you just don't have a deep enough pitching staff to do so, why wouldn't Cubs fans who really actually care about this team and think about the future, why would they not consider trading Kyle Tucker for maybe one of the best pitching prospects in baseball? And then he comes up here at the same time as all those guys you just talked about, Sean. And now you do have that front end rotation starter. You do have that. I mean, and here's a great point by Vizzo Joe, Sean. Let me ask you a question. When we were in the $450 million range, we were all like, extend Kyle Tucker. Now that his camp's asking for $600 million, do you think Kyle Tucker is worth $600 million?
Well,
I think he'd have to be better than he's been here. I think he'd have to be better than that. Be better than that.
I personally do. Because if you're comparing numbers and you're comparing the contracts that are being handed out across baseball, and we had this conversation last week, Kyle, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just got $500 million on the Blue Jays. Kyle Tucker's a better baseball player than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's more athletic. He plays defense.
He is.
I mean,
I'm not arguing. He's definitely better than Guerrero. But Sean, do you think there's some validity to the fact of what I said last week? Like, the reason that Ohtani was paid $750 million is because Ohtani is two players in one.
Sure.
I mean, I know he hasn't pitched yet, guys, but he's going to. At some point in his career, he's going to pitch again. So you paid two players. So basically, you paid $375 million for Ohtani as a pitcher and $375 million for Ohtani as one of the best hitters in baseball. Then all these teams started following suit. Like, oh, now we have to give every player in baseball $700 million. Soto, Guerrero. Like, no, you don't. Ohtani got paid because he's a unicorn. So stop giving these guys $700 million because Juan Soto is not a $750 million player. He's not. I'm sorry. I like Juan Soto a lot, and I would love if he was on the Chicago Cubs. But he is not worth $750 million. He's just not. Sean, they just added Juan Soto to the Mets, and I still don't think the Mets are in the favorite conversation to win the World Series. I mean, if you're going to give a guy $750 million, you better automatically be considered one of the top three teams to contend for a World Series, and I don't believe that they are. So, I mean, is he worth $600 million? To me personally, guys, no, he's not. But at this point, that's just kind of how baseball is going. So if you want him to be here, that's what you're going to have to pay him. That whether you like it or not, whether you think he's worth it or not, it doesn't matter.
Let me ask you this, Bizzo, Joe, and Kyle. I'll ask you guys both, and Scott Angel, since Scott Angel says he wouldn't pay him either. Do you like the Cubs' chances over the next couple of years with or without Tucker winning a World Series?
Well, it depends, Sean. It depends on the farm. Like you just said, what if Kevin Alcantara comes up here and he's better than Kyle Tucker? You have no idea. None of us have any idea. We don't know. We have no idea. Sean, I thought PCA was going to be a really good player. I'm like, PCA is going to be a good player. He's been in the top farm rankings for baseball and the Cubs for the last 5 years. I didn't think he was going to be this good.
I didn't either.
Not in a million years. I think. Sean, he's probably the best defender in baseball. He's probably the best base runner in baseball. Oh, yeah. And by the way, he's on pace to hit 40 home runs.
So I was going to do this in a second when we got to looking ahead and the series coming up, because this was brought to my attention by Lewis Analytics this week, because I didn't realize how good this guy was actually having of a year. So Rookie of the Year is probably going to be between these two gentlemen right here, and we're going to get to see him firsthand. And by the way, he had a game-winning 3-run homer yesterday to help the Washington Nationals win a game. This guy is an absolute monster in James Wood. Now, I was on Twitter this week, and I had a heated discussion with some people about James Wood versus PCA. Some people have him as a better MVP candidate, and we can kind of just integrate the whole show, and we start talking about MVPs. You got PCA, you got James Woods. You see James Woods got a little bit of a better batting average, a little bit of a slugging, a little bit better on base. He just hit his 16th yesterday. PCA does have more stolen bases, has more RBIs, has a higher WAR. He has Woods has a higher WRC plus. I mean, James Wood is having just as good a season as PCA here, and I don't really think that he's getting enough attention at this moment. But
Sean, that's pretty standard in sports, right? This guy could be as good as he could be the best player in baseball, but if he's on a shitty team, he's going to get a lot less recognition.
It's true.
Than, especially for a team like, not only are the Chicago Cubs in first in their division, but they're the Chicago Cubs. So like PCA is always going to get more recognition than James Wood. And I like James Wood a lot. And I saw that highlight of him winning that game. And he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for years. I've talked about how I think the Nationals team should be better because their prospects are all really good. For some reason, they just can't put it together. But I mean, at the end of the day, people who compare numbers in baseball like to forget about defense, and defense is important. And what PCA does in the outfield and what he does on the base paths goes unmatched. There's nobody in baseball who can do what he does. Sean, he rounded the bases in 11 seconds. James Wood ain't doing that.
Wood is pretty fast. I mean, he's up.
Yeah, he's fast. He's fast. He's just not generationally fast. He's not. You only see one every 10 years fast.
I'm not knocking what PCA is doing, because if PCA isn't doing this, the Cubs probably aren't as good as they are.
And Sean, and PCA is, people could say, oh, PCA is just seeing strikes because Kyle Tucker's line. No, PCA is seeing strikes because nobody wants to walk him because they know he's going to steal 3 bases. That's why they're pitching him down the middle, because they don't want to put him on base. He's always going to see strikes because nobody wants PCA standing at first base because it's almost a guarantee stealing second. It's almost guaranteed. So nobody wants him on base. So they're going to have to continue. You can't pitch around the strike zone because if you put him on base, he's going to steal second and third, and it's basically a triple anyway. So you have to pitch down the middle. You have to pitch down the middle of PCA, pitch him strikes and try to strike him out. That's your best bet. And as of late, Sean, PCA's strikeout rate has gone up a little bit. So maybe that's what teams are going to try to do, continue to attack the strike zone. But if PCA gets back on a hot streak and he starts seeing the ball well again, starts seeing that strike zone well again, and he starts crushing homers, at some point, pitchers are going to be like, we don't know what to do with Pete Crow-Armstrong. Like, we don't know. We don't want him on base. We don't want to walk him because he's going to steal second and third. But we also don't want to pitch him down the middle because he has 15 home runs, and we're not even at the All-Star break yet. Like, PCA to me is quietly sneaking into that unicorn conversation, Sean. If he continues to do what he's doing, if he could do this consistently, yes, if he could do it consistently, and Sean, like, I agree with you. It's too small of a sample size for both of them, for James Wood as well. It's too small of a sample size for both these guys. But right now, Sean, if you're asking me if I'm taking any player in baseball outside of Ohtani, it's Pete Crow-Armstrong. It's Pete Crow-Armstrong. I'm sorry, but people are like, well, you're just a biased Cubs fan. No, I just think Pete's PCA is, first of all, he's electric. He's kind of got that El Mago vibe to him. Like he brings everybody up in the team, like the dugout. They all seem to have more fun when PCA is there. He's just an energetic kid who loves baseball. And I've never seen anybody with the power that he has that can run as fast as he can run. Sean, you tell me, who's a guy who has this much power? If he continues to hit home runs at the rate he's hitting them, who's a guy you could think of that has that much power and is also can run the bases in 11 seconds?
Yeah, there's not many. Ricky Henderson comes to mind.
No, I mean, and even the fact that we're sitting here comparing PCA to guys like Ricky Henderson, I mean, that's quite the compliment. That's good company.
And I'm just going to say this. James Wood, also a very, very highly talented prospect.
Yeah, come to the Cubs, James. Come to the Cubs.
I mean, this guy, I'm not going to sell him short. I'm with you. I don't think the Cubs are anywhere near where they are without him. I think the Nationals are 3 games under 500 and in 4th place in a very good NL East right now. But you got to look at the player as a whole, and James Wood is having a monster year for the Washington Nationals.
Yes, he is. He is absolutely.
Now,
it's just, Sean, how many times have we seen like we've seen this that 2 years ago when Lamar Jackson won his second MVP? If you look at statistics only, Josh Allen should have been the MVP. If you look at statistics only, Joe Burrow should have been the MVP last year. But this is how sports is. If you're not on a playoff team, if you're not on a team that's of notoriety, a team that's being talked about in the news daily, you just get overlooked. Sean, I bet you if you asked 100 just casual baseball fans, just casual, like they don't dive into the head first like we do to their team. You just ask 100 casual baseball fans, what team does James Wood play for you? I bet you 90 of them can't answer that question.
You're probably right. You're probably right. Yeah, and the Nationals aren't having a great year thus far. But as we said, and we'll get into this looking ahead, they're starting to get hot, and we're running into Washington. And we talked about this on the phone yesterday, Kaya. The next 12 days for the Cubs are hugely important, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. But I wanted to still talk about what we have here, like moving forward for the Chicago Cubs, because I know that you were really sold on Porter Hodge being that closer, but now we have the emergence of one Daniel Palencia, who I've been on all year saying that this guy, I want him to get a shot because of his swing and miss stuff. And, he's not only got swing and miss stuff, he's adding some pitches. He's adding some pitches to what he's doing here. His wipeout slider has become a great complement to that 99 to 102 mile per hour elevated heater he's throwing out there. I mean, did the Cubs find their closer? Well, Porter Hodge, and I hate to say this, Cub fans, because this breaks my heart, but the latest update on Porter Hodge is not good. Craig Counsell out of his own mouth said he's not progressing well. These obliques could be 2-3 month injuries. We saw it with Suzuki last year, where he missed almost 2 months of the season with an oblique. We might not have Porter Hodge in the back half of this bullpen for quite some time. Are you comfortable with Daniel Palencia saying that this could be the Cubs closer. Hit and miss stuff. Got that wipeout slider that seems to be working. His whip rate is one of the best in baseball right now. His last 4 outings, we knew he blew that first save opportunity, but I'm going to give him his due. He worked 4 days in a row. On the 4th day, he got up in the bullpen, did a 20-minute warm-up session. The Cubs never used him. And then the next day, they bring him in, and they used him again. I think he was a little winded because when he's fresh, I mean, 4 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, 4 saves. Where are we at here, man? How do you feel? Do you think that him and Brad Keller, because Brad Keller, I don't know if you missed this the other day, Brad Keller hit 100 on the gun.
Yeah, Brad Keller, his velocity is going up. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that Daniel Palencia is the best 1-inning pitcher on the Chicago Cubs. It's not even a question. I mean, he is the Aroldis Chapman of the Chicago Cubs. The only reason I earlier in the season had previously said I don't want him to be the closer and I'd rather have Porter Hodge. Obviously, this is when we had Porter Hodge, but I just think Daniel Palencia is capable of getting you 5 outs. I think he's capable of getting you 4 outs or 5 outs, or if they say you're in the, there's 2 outs in the 7th inning, I think he could come in and get the last out in the 7th inning and get 3 more outs in the 8th inning. I think Daniel Palencia is capable of doing that. I think he's a 4 or 5 out pitcher. I think Porter Hodge is more comfortable as just a 1-inning guy, like a 1-inning guy. But yeah, I mean, Sean, if you're asking me who's better between the two or who has more intriguing stuff, yeah, Daniel Palencia, no doubt about it. Anybody who could throw 100 miles per hour in baseball, you're pretty much one of the best pitchers in baseball because it's almost impossible to hit, especially if you're hitting your locations like Daniel Palencia has been doing. I mean, we all heard the story about how Daniel Palencia got up here and he looked kind of shaky. He didn't look very confident. And Justin Turner pulled him aside and was like, hey, listen, man, I've been playing this game for a long time, and I wouldn't want to face you. And when you're pitching 100 miles an hour, like, dude, you need to go out there with confidence, and you need to throw your right down the middle, and nobody's going to hit it because you are an absolute flamethrower. Daniel Palencia is the Cubs' best pitcher. If you're talking about 3 outs, needing 3 outs, he is the Cubs' best pitcher. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, Sean, I only wanted him in the 7th or 8th because I think he's capable of getting more than 3 outs. I think when Daniel Palencia is on, he's almost unhittable. But yeah, now that Porter Hodge is not here, Sean, I don't think it's really is it even a conversation anymore? I mean, Daniel Palencia is your closer. He's your closer.
Yeah, and I think when he returns, man, that back half of that bullpen just got way better because now you're looking at Porter Hodge backed up by Daniel Palencia, and you got Keller back there. I mean, let's just be honest. This bullpen now has over the last 6 days, I think it is. It's 5 or 6 days. The bullpen has 21 innings pitched, 0 earned runs allowed. The bullpen that we saw at the beginning of the year that was scary and giving us nightmares of 2024.
Well, Sean, a lot of those guys, thou who shall remain unnamed, that is no longer in the bullpen, who's here to start the season. I think you know what I'm talking about. Who never had an outing without allowing a run. Yeah, you start getting rid of those guys and start. Here's the question, though, Sean. Like I said, there just seem to be running out of arms. Like a big part of that bullpen ERA that you just showed, Sean, is the fact that Drew Pomerantz is contributing a 0.00 ERA, and now it sounds like maybe they're going to start making him like a spot starter. Like, don't screw it up, guys. I know you're running out of options here, but don't screw it up. If I were the Cubs personally, Sean, I would start Chris Flexen. That's what I would do. Because he has starting experience, and he's been good in the Cubs bullpen, but we all know what Chris Flexen is. He's not amazing. I think he could be better than he was in the White Sox. I think everybody who left the White Sox is going to be better because nobody gives a shit about the White Sox, and they're just sick of playing there. But yeah, I mean, I just wish Drew Pomerantz, they would just leave him, let him do what he's been doing. Just leave him be. Let him do what he's been doing. I think Drew Pomerantz has been an absolutely amazing story for the Cubs. It kind of reminds me of the David Robertson story all over again. Like, this guy was almost forgotten in the world of baseball. He hadn't pitched in like 2 years. And he comes up here and he's like, oh, you guys remember me? Yeah, try to hit this. Like, I love the story of Drew Pomerantz. If he comes in today and allows 4 runs and that snowballs and that starts to continue on down the road and that's who he becomes, the Cubs will have screwed it up. That means that they screwed it up. You should have just left him where he was. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I hope Drew Pomerantz comes out and has 3 shutout innings. That would be awesome. That'd be amazing. And then you can really start to consider making him your spot starter or 6th starter in the rotation. I'm fine with it. But, man, Sean, like you just said, you just pointed out the bullpen's been absolutely amazing for the last month. And it sucks because the Cubs can just never seem to put it all together at this. Hey, guys, you hit, you pitch well, and you pitch well, and we'll be one of the best teams in baseball. But it's like every time the Cubs are like a teeter-totter. Like every single time somebody does well, somebody else can't. It's like it's just, they're like on the scale where, well, the starting pitching is pitching well, so the relievers have to suck, and vice versa, or the batters aren't. The offense is stagnant, so the pitchers are pitching well, and then as soon as the offense starts hitting, then the pitchers are having bad days. Like, can you guys all just get on the same page at the same time and play complementary baseball and start to dominate like you should? I mean, like I said, Sean, I don't care about. There's no such thing as cheap wins, but the Cubs should have dominated the Rockies. They should have. If you looked at the ERAs for the starting pitchers of the Rockies, the Cubs should have gone in there and beat the shit out of them, especially at home. But at some point, the Cubs got to put this all together. Whether they want to or not, Sean, how huge would it be? Like, Sean, imagine if Justin Steele was still here. Like, how big is that for this team, right? So go get Justin Steele. Go get a Justin Steele, because you know how impactful that would be if he was still part of this rotation. So go get a guy like that. You have to. And I'm not saying a guy with a sub-3 ERA. Get a guy with a 3.2 ERA, a guy who can just eat up innings. Get another Matthew Boyd in here. You need somebody, because every single time that somebody gets hurt for the Cubs, they start shifting and moving all these guys around. Like, no, guys, just go get another pitcher and leave these guys where they're comfortable.
Yeah. And I will tell you today, the Cincinnati Reds, and I think this is why they went against Flexen, because he's a righty, and they're going to throw Pomerantz and Ben Brown, although Ben Brown got beat around by the Reds last week. They have a negative WRC plus, which is weighted runs created, against lefties in 2025. Because I was actually, and yesterday I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, man, Chris Flexen should have earned that spot if they're going to pull Ben Brown. But then I kind of got into those numbers, and I was like, they're going to go lefty because of their struggles against left-handed pitching. I don't want to be too down on Ben Brown, but he just hasn't been good, and it's very, very scary.
So we talked about it. If you're a 2-pitch pitcher, you better be damn good with your location. You better be an absolute mastermind of location. And Ben Brown just has not been that guy. Early in the season, we were having people in the chat who were like, "Man, Kyle just doesn't seem to like Ben Brown." Like, guys, I do like Ben Brown, but I've said this 1,000 times. 2-pitch pitchers are inconsistent unless they are absolutely amazing, a master of location. And Ben Brown, the second he starts missing where his spot a little bit, he becomes very predictable. It's a 50-50 shot. You know what you're going to get, one of two pitches, right? So if he can't hit those those outside edges perfectly, he's not going to be a good pitcher in Major League Baseball. Sean, ultimately, Ben Brown has two options. A, he can get much better at hitting his spots, or B, he needs to add a pitch. He has to add a pitch. Everybody's like, well, Justin Steele does it with two. Yeah, well, Justin Steele's he's the exception to the rule. There's not many Justin Steele. There's not many ace-type pitchers who only have two pitches. As a matter of fact, the reason that most aces are aces is because they pitch 3 or 4 pitches very well. It's like guys like Yu Darvish, who has 9? How many pitches does that guy have?
Yu Darvish, he's got, I think, 7 or 8, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes really, really, really good starters is the batter never knows what's coming. The hitter never knows what's coming because you have so many pitches and you execute them all so well. If you're a 2-pitch pitcher, you better be absolutely amazing at location.
Mm-hmm. As we get into as we flip, I think the Cubs, if they spend money in the right spots, personally, and I just want to put a bow on this with you. I personally think that this organization's done a great job down on the farm, bringing these guys along. I know it's taking a lot longer than what people want, and instant gratification, especially here in Chicago. But for me, I personally think the Cubs have set themselves up for some long-term success where we're going to see these guys start coming up and perform, and they're going to have their struggles. I mean, you look at Jackson Holliday, you look at Corbin Carroll, you look at these highly talented prospects. They all came up, they're all delivering, but at some point in their call up to the bigs, they struggled. PCA struggled. Matt Shaw, we just saw his huge turnaround that Matt Shaw has, and I had a Matt Shaw stat, and I think I forgot to upload it in here. Gosh, or maybe I didn't. Oh no, that's Jefferson Rojas. I did. Damn it. He's hitting 355. That's dipped a little after his performance yesterday. I didn't look at his what he's hitting after yesterday, but he's coming
not much,
down.
Sean. He had a hit yesterday, so
He did.
it didn't dip that much. I mean, Sean, I've told you this before, Sean, and I'll say it now on the podcast here. And Scott, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But if the Cubs went into this season and thinking that Kyle Tucker was a superstar, right? And PCA was a star, right?
Yeah.
And that's good. If you have two stars on the same team, your chances of winning the World Series increase dramatically. So if they're not willing to pay Kyle Tucker and he ends up leaving Chicago, the hope needs to be that PCA supplants Kyle Tucker as that superstar and Matt Shaw is a star and takes over PCA's star. Like you need two on the same team. You have to have two on the same. You can't just have one because you're not. There's too many moving parts on a baseball team to have only one really, really good player. So if they decide not to pick Kyle Tucker, then PCA needs to step into that superstar role and Matt Shaw needs to step into that star role. And then you're kind of like, you're almost in the same spot, right? Because you didn't really know what to expect from Matt Shaw. As far as you're concerned, you're like, hey, if he's good, great, that's a bonus. If not, we'll find somebody else. But when I watch Matt Shaw play, and especially lately at defense, Sean, that's the one. Matt Shaw has been absolutely amazing for the Chicago Cubs. I could not be any happier about how Matt Shaw has started his career. And you know what? I expected the send down. So did you, Sean. We talked about this. Ebbs and flows, right? Ups and downs. These rookies, these young guys, you just talked about with Jackson Holiday, same can be said of Matt Shaw. He's going to have another bad slump at some point this year. But if Matt Shaw can continue to build off what he's done so far and get better, he's going to be in that star conversation because Matt Shaw can hit the ball. Everybody knows that. That's not a question. There's not anybody in the world who thinks Matt Shaw is not going to be a legitimate Major League Baseball hitter. He can't. But if he continues to play like he is at third base and he continues to get better at defense at third base, Matt Shaw is a star because what he's doing over there has been nothing short of amazing. There's been 4 or 5 plays over there. I'm like, oh my God, we have a third baseman.
And that kind of brings me to the Kyle Tucker thing. If Matt Shaw turns into that guy and you have PCA, even though you gave up those prospects to Houston, do you let Kyle Tucker walk because you built this thing through your organization?
Sean, if letting Kyle Tucker walk is they're like, we're definitely going to let Kyle Tucker walk. They know that for a fact. They're like, we're not paying him. Trade him. I'm a Cubs fan. I think about the future. I want them to win multiple championships, not one championship in 2025 and then suck for the next 10 years again. I want 2 championships in the next 10 years. So if you think Kyle Tucker's not going to be extended here, trade him go get that one of those really good starters in baseball who could be a 2 or 3 in. You're not going to get into 1 in the rotation for Kyle Tucker, Sean, because he's a rental. Yeah. So you're not gonna get like a Max Fried type player because he's a rental. No. So go get 2 or 3 in the rotation. Now you come back next year with Justin Steele, Cade Horton, Shota Imanaga, whoever you traded for, James Dye, whatever you can set the rotation up however you want. But go add 1 more guy to this rotation. And Sean, you talk about Jackson Wiggins sitting in the wait. I mean, at some point, if you're thinking about the future, the Cubs need to seriously consider trading Kyle Tucker if they're not going to extend him. Now, everybody listening, I just want everybody to know, anybody in the chat, anybody listening, I love Kyle Tucker. And my perfect scenario would be them paying him and him being here for the next 10 years. That's what I want. I just don't, as a Cubs fan, and like I said, if history repeats itself, Sean, we're both huge Cubs fans. We've watched this team for a long time. How many $600 million contracts have they handed out?
They don't have a $200 million contract on the book.
Let me ask you a question, Shauna. You probably know this better than I do. Has there ever been a combination of 3 players on the Chicago Cubs, 3 players, salaries combined, making $600 million?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think so.
You say that Jason Hayward and John Lester was probably what? 375, 4? Somewhere in between there,
something like that.
So, was there anybody else on that team that the Cubs were paying an astronomical amount of money to? No, I don't believe so.
Rookie deal. Anthony Rizzo's contract was pretty team friendly.
Oh, very team friendly.
Yeah,
everybody else on that team, Javier Baez,
he was on a rookie contract too.
No, Fowler, he was on I think they paid him like what, $80 million or something. It was also a very team friendly deal. Sean, I don't think they've ever paid a collective 3 players $600 million. So asking them to pay 1 player $600 million, that I don't know, man.
Well, I'll tell you this: there should have been, but money wasn't then when you had Aram, Derek Lee, Kerry Wood, and Mark Pryor on the same team. That would probably be the closest if you want to combine, but their contracts weren't that big either.
Well, and was Soriano on that team, or was that after?
Soriano was 02. I think he did play with Aram. I can't remember. Someone in the chat help me out.
Oh, Carlos Zambrano. I mean, yeah, that Cubs team. If that Cubs team was today, if that team with Rams Ramirez, Derek Lee, and Carlos Zambrano, okay, I think they even had Ryan Dempster in the bullpen at some point.
They had Dempster. Dempster was on there. He was starter and bullpen. Both.
Yeah. If you had that team today, that'd be a very expensive baseball team.
It would be very expensive.
That's the Dodgers.
That's the Dodgers. Aram, by the way, is my favorite Chicago Cubs trade ever. By far, not close. Hated he went to Milwaukee after the Cubs, but man, was he the shit when he was here.
Yeah, Ramos Ramirez and Jake Arrieta are the two best trades I can think of in Chicago Cubs history, no doubt about it.
The worst.
And then there's some. Let's look at the other side. John. Trading away Greg Maddux was the dumbest thing in the history of baseball.
And Lou Brock. I know that's a little bit old, but it's probably one of the dumbest trades in the history of sports.
The only guy they traded away who was continued to play well that I wasn't mad about was Mark Grace, because Mark Grace deserved a championship and the Cubs weren't going to get it. So at least go let him win one.
Yeah, and he's immortalized right behind me on that helmet there. He's still a Mr. Cub to me, and I love Mark Grace with all of my heart and soul. As we get into this one of our last segments here before we look ahead, I came up with this because of that whole thing with James Wood that was on Twitter this week, and they had, Aaron Judge, obviously, Shohei Ohtani, Fernando Tatis Jr., and they did not have MVPete, which I started looking at. But then I started looking at, those are two good ones too. Joe Carter, Rafael Palmeiro, those are a couple of good ones as well, Joe.
Yeah, what's up, John?
Thanks for joining, brother. And I started thinking, first off, my question is, do you think either of these guys are MVPs of the league, just Cub MVPs? Because right now you have both of these guys are on pace for 40 home runs and about 140 knocked in. Now, coming into the season, they said PCA's cap was 15 home runs. Well, guys, he's got 15 home runs before we put
Yeah. So, I don't know who said that, but
those were his projections at the beginning of the year. He was a 260 hitter, or maybe even a 248. I think he was 248, 15 home runs. I mean, his projections were awful. He's far outseeding them. But when you look at Seiya, this is something I've long expected from Seiya. You know that I've been a Seiya Suzuki lover, defender. When people have said, oh, he gets hurt, he sucks, blah, blah, blah. The numbers just don't back that up. I'm sorry if you go inside. He's a lifetime 280 hitter in baseball. Go back to Hall of Famers. They're lifetime 280 hitters. I mean, it's very hard to hit 300 in the major league level. So this year, he's staying healthy for the most part. It does look like he has something going on with his leg right now, though. You've seen him. He was on third base, I think, yesterday or the day before, and he was trying to shake it out, and it looked like it reared its ugly head again yesterday. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Was he in the lineup that you read earlier?
I don't believe so. I don't think he was.
That could be a problem.
Yeah, and that's kind of been Seiya Suzuki's problem since he's come to the major leagues, his health. It's been his number one problem. Oh, he's in the lineup, Sean. He's in the lineup. So he's all right. So
here's a couple other things that I dug into. Pete Crow-Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki on this team on this year's Chicago Cubs team. They're the third team in the live ball era to have multiple players with 50 RBIs before June. They joined the Rockies' Larry Walker and Todd Helton in 2001 and 2003. So it's been a long time ago. Carlos Delgado and Vernon Wells. Pete Crow-Armstrong is the first player since Alfonso Soriano in 2002 to have 15 home runs and 16 stolen bases through 55 games. Before the season started, as I just stated, Pete Crow-Armstrong was projected to have 15 home runs. Now you have Seiya Suzuki kind of doing the same thing, but at right now they're kind of teetering towards the slower end, and they're kind of falling off slightly as we've seen over the past week. They've choked in some pretty pivotal situations for the Cubs. But in your mind, Kyle, take your Cubs fandom out of it. If you don't have Seiya Suzuki, which I know most people don't, because most people aren't really paying attention to how important he's actually been to the Chicago Cubs team. But would you have Pete Crow-Armstrong in the MVP talk?
So I think they both should be in the MVP talk. I don't know why. I don't understand why what Seiya Suzuki is doing is going so under the radar. We heard Ryan Dempster talk about this on LB Network the other day. Like he said, the MVP for the Cubs, and nobody's talking about is Seiya Suzuki. He's been absolutely amazing. He was leading baseball in RBIs. If you're leading baseball in the RBIs, how are you not in the MVP conversation? The only thing about Suzuki is, we've talked about this in the past, Sean, he just doesn't have a position on the field, and that's what kills Suzuki in terms of his value when you're talking about MVP or All-Star. I mean, DH is just kind of overlooked in baseball. It's like almost like they have the writers, obviously the guys who vote on MVP, and the experts are all like, yeah, you get overlooked because they're like, yeah, but all you got to do is swing a bat, man. You don't ever have to run. You don't ever have to dive. You don't have to, like, it stinks because Seiya Suzuki, I think he won like outfielder of the year 3 years in a row or something like that in Japan before he came over here. But yeah, I don't want to see Seiya Suzuki in the outfield ever again. And it stinks because he has absolutely been amazing as in that Cubs lineup this season, Sean. And it's just like when Seiya Suzuki's hitting the way he's hitting, Kyle Tucker's hitting the way he's hitting, PC is hitting, there's just no breaks for the opposing pitching staff. Like there's just always somebody you got to worry about. And not only is Suzuki hitting for average and power, but Sean, every single ball he hits leaves the bat at like 115 miles an hour. He's just a powerful man. And it's crazy because when you look at him, Seiya Suzuki doesn't look that big and strong to me, but he, when they were talking about him, Nico Horner was talking about him on 670 the other day, and he's like, no, he's a machine. He is a strong man. And I feel like when he got to the majors, he wasn't like that. I don't think he looked that strong when he first got here. I think he kind of looked around Major League Baseball and was like, well, looking at everybody like, well, I think I need to get back in the weight room if I'm going to compete in Major League Baseball. And ever since then, man, everything he hits just has fire, smoke behind it. But yeah, Sean, Seiya Suzuki to me, outside of Kyle Tucker and PCA, he is the most important Chicago Cub, at least in the offense, at least in the lineup. It's those three guys. Those are the big three. Now, obviously, Ian Happ's consistent, and Nico Horner's been hitting for average this season, which is what we expected from Nico Horner since day one. That's what we were promised when Nico Horner came here. Is he was always going to be a 290, 300 hitter. Nico Horner's finally getting to become that guy. Swanson's going to have his ups and downs. Amaya's going to have his ups and downs. Like, there's nobody else in the lineup that's really, I consider. Michael Busch just really struggles against left-handed pitching. If this team really does want to compete for a World Series in 2025, when they get to the playoffs, they need Kyle Tucker, PCA, and Seiya Suzuki to carry this team. Suzuki's been nothing short of amazing. And right now, as a Cubs fan, I'd take PCA as MVP over Seiya Suzuki, but that's just because of what he does on the base paths in the outfield. I mean, you take away his defensive metrics, Suzuki might be a better player. I mean, Suzuki's been absolutely amazing, Sean. He's a really, really, really good hitter. And I think the move to DH, which you talked about in the offseason, you said it's time for the Cubs to just move to DH and just leave him there. I think it's the best thing that ever happened to him. They really do.
Yeah. And I will say to back up Scotty's point here, he did all right in left field, filling in for Hep. He did throw that runner out at home.
Sean, it looks awkward. It looks awkward. It always looks awkward.
He also misplayed that fly ball and crashed into the wall.
That's what I'm saying. It looks awkward. It looks awkward to me. Like, I don't know if the fields are just laid out differently in Japan, and he was just more comfortable out there, and he got used to it. Maybe the stadium he played in for a long time, and that's how he won 3 Defensive Catcher of the Year awards. But when he's in the outfield in Chicago, it looks awkward to me. I don't know what it is about it, but he just looks like he's uncomfortable. And Sean, maybe that's just who he is. Maybe he's just a much better DH than he ever is going to be an outfielder. And if that's the case, then just leave him there. And I know Seiya doesn't love it. He's come out and said that he wants to play in the field every day. But Seiya, man, you've had your opportunities, you've had your chances, and if you continue to look the way you've looked, where you're misplaying routine fly balls, you can't really be all that upset with the Chicago Cubs for just sticking with DH and leaving you there. I mean, this is just who you are, man. And I think if once again, this is going to sound redundant because I keep saying this over and over and over, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Seiya Suzuki's this is his best year in the major leagues by far, not even close. This is his best year as a professional baseball player in the United States of America. Leave him there.
Mm-hmm. And, we're going to take a quick look ahead, but there is one more thing down on the farm report that I wanted to get to. A couple of Chicago Cubs that had phenomenal months. And not to mention, I was just looking at this. Jefferson Rojas had 2 more triples yesterday. But nonetheless,
you guys, Jefferson Rojas is Sean's golden child.
I love
he probably has 75 cards.
I love Jefferson. This man. He's going to be great for the Chicago Cubs one day, really, really soon here in the near future. But Jonathan Long, great month of May as well. 6 home runs, 24 RBIs, hit 358, slugged 642, on base percentage 415. His OBP for the month was 1.057. That is as impressive as you can be at the AAA level. And also our pitcher of the month was Riley Martin. He had 11.1 innings pitched, 18 strikeouts. The league hit 8.83 against him. He had a 0.71 whip and a 0.00 earned run average in the month of May, to go along with our other guy, Jefferson Rojas, who we just showed you absolutely destroyed South Bend this past month. So congratulations to those guys. And hopefully these are some of the guys that are either going to be trade pieces, or these are the guys that are going to be coming up like a Jackson Wiggins. And Kyle, I wanted to touch on this really quick with Jackson Wiggins, man.
Well, Sean, real quick, can we just say, let's give him another shout out to John S., man. Thank you. He said he really likes our Bears stuff. He's not really a Cubs fan, but he figured he'd see what we're talking about. We really appreciate you joining. Yeah, John, thanks so much for joining the show, man. You're awesome, man. Scott Angel, Break News Bruce, everybody who's watching on Twitter right now, Vizzo Joe, obviously, Brandon joined the show. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. If you are watching on Twitter, please jump over to YouTube and hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, man. And if you guys do enjoy watching us, please tell your friends about us. Share our show with a friend. You guys are the reasons we do this. We've said it 1,000 times. We just enjoy talking sports with people outside of our little friend group here. Sean and I have been doing this at the bar for years, guys. We figured we might as well have somebody else, some more people join in.
See what other people think.
Yeah.
Really quick before we leave the farm, I just wanted to touch on this. So if you compare where Jackson Wiggins is, you see his numbers up on the screen right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Compared to Cade Horton, where Cade Horton was, Cade Horton at this time had a 265 on run average, a 1 whip, 1.0 whip, 33.5% K percentage, a 7.7 walk percentage, a 17% WSR strike percentage, a 33 CSW percentage. The league hit 191 against him, slugged 288, and an OBP of 543. So you see how close those are. And for people who don't know, the SWR streak percentage is swinging strike percentage, measures the percentage of pitches thrown that result in swings and misses by the batter. And the CWS stands for called strikes plus whiff rate. It's a metric that measures the pitcher's ability to induce swings and misses and get called strikes. As you can see, guys, Jackson Wiggins is on Cade Horton's level. The former Arkansas Razorback is flying through the Cubs organization right now. Keep your eyes on him. Start getting his baseball cards, because I'm about to.
Well, Sean, once again, you don't have to convince me. I want flamethrowers. I've said this for years. The Cubs have always been this team that's like, hey, let's just get the Kyle Hendricks of the world, the professors, where they just they're really smart about guessing, keeping the better guessing. Hey, at some point, guys, the game is changing. These guys are starting to throw 100, 102, 103 miles an hour. Go get as many of them as you possibly can. You see what the success Daniel Palencia has had here. I think Jackson Wiggins is kind of in the same conversation, Sean. First of all, the guy's 23 years old. I mean, this guy has so much baseball ahead of him. He's not even 24 years old yet. He's probably going to finish the season off here at AAA, I would assume. He's probably eligible to be in the starting rotation at some point next season or the year following. So before he's 25 years old, you don't have to convince me that the flamethrowers of the world in our farm system should be up here as soon as possible. And Sean, I've said this before. I still have faith in Luke Little as well. If
Yeah.
I'd give Luke Little 2 or 3 more chances before I give up on that guy. It's tough to take a guy who throws 100, 101, 102 and just give up on him because you're not satisfied with it. Like at some point, man, try to get him up here and see what he's capable of. And if you could just, if Luke Little can have conversations with guys like Justin Turner, like the same conversation he did with Daniel Palencia, just kind of get him out of his own head. I think Luke Little is going to be very, very good at some point as well. I want as many 100-mile-per-hour throwers on the Chicago Cubs as we could possibly get, Sean.
Well,
I want
and I
as
will tell you
many of
this.
them as possible.
To Luke Little, he's having a fantastic year. He's got a 142 earned run average in 13 games, 19 innings pitched. He's allowed 8 hits in those 19 innings. He's given up 3 earned runs on the season. He's struck out 23. He's walked 5. I mean, this guy is for all intents and purposes getting closer. He also has his best strikeout rate going so far in his young career. So Luke Little's another one of these guys.
Sean, if he could mimic that success at the major level, and Sean, remember, he was good in the major leagues last year at one point. He had like a month stretch where he had like a sub-2 ERA. So he's proven that he can do it. I mean, that's a very tiny sample size. But if he continues that success and he comes up here and pitches to those same numbers, and you have Luke Little, Daniel Palencia, Porter Hodge, and I don't give a shit. Put them in any order you want. I don't care. That's one of the most dominant bullpens.
It's going to be tough. Yeah.
That is one of the most dominant bullpens. All you really need is that front end starter. That's all you need. And then the Cubs are really in the conversation for World Series contender. We've already seen them beat teams the likes of the Dodgers and the Padres. We've seen they compete with anybody. But obviously Justin Steele was here earlier on in the season. We were relying on Justin Steele heavily. We know the Cubs do. He's the best pitcher. You got to replace him. If you really, really want a chance of winning a World Series this year with Kyle Tucker here before he leaves, if you decide you're not going to pay him, go get a pitcher. And you know what, Sean? I don't understand why every team in baseball, and maybe you can answer this question for me. Why do they feel like they have to wait to the day before the trade deadline? If you know you need a starter, then start calling teams right now.
Right.
Start calling them now. The closer you get to the trade deadline, the more leverage they have because they know you have to add somebody, right? And you're running out of time. You start calling people right now, that leverage is not nearly as high, and the competition's not as high either. How many teams right now are calling teams for starting pitchers? Probably not many. Like the Dodgers, I think their rotation they believe is set in stone. The Yankees believe their rotation is set in stone. The Braves believe their rotation is set in stone. The Phillies believe their rotation is set in stone. The only team that suffered a major injury to one of their best pitchers on their team is the Chicago Cubs. Start calling people right now.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I wish they would have called immediately after the Justin Steele and started to see if they could fill that. Obviously they were trying to catch lightning in a bottle with Colin Ray and Matthew Boyd. It seems like they kind of did. Matthew Boyd's been pretty good, especially at Wrigley Field.
Sean, and Colin Ray's certainly given them more than they could have asked for. I mean, Colin Ray is, like I said, you guys, right now he's at a 3.97 ERA, I believe, or 3.97.
Right around there.
This is still the best season he's ever had in the history of his career. This is the best season Colin Ray's ever had. So you got what you asked for in Colin Ray. You can only ask him to do it for so long, though, Sean, because sooner or later, baseball's a game of averages, and it's going to average out, and Colin Ray is going to become Colin Ray, and we've seen it recently here against the Reds. If this is who Colin Ray continues to be, the 4.5 ERA guy that he's been his entire career, you better start thinking about adding that starting pitcher right now because the Cardinals are still right behind you, man.
They gained a game yesterday.
Yep. No, they didn't. They lost a game yesterday.
No, they gained a game. They won. We lost.
They lost. The Cardinals lost yesterday.
Are you sure?
Sean, they got destroyed. Destroyed.
Oh, I thought they won yesterday. Maybe I was looking at the wrong day.
They got destroyed.
I thought I saw they gained the game yesterday.
They got their asses whooped.
Well, that loss doesn't hurt us too much. And don't forget about this gentleman, Will Sanders. Before we take a look ahead, he's got an interesting mix of fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, and he just got the call up. And you know what? We'll keep an eye on him. He's down in Iowa, and we'll see how he does from Knoxville, Tennessee, to the Iowa Cubs.
Sean, you know what how fast he throws?
Will, that's the one thing I didn't look up was Will Sanders, how fast he does throw.
He looks like a major league pitcher.
Yeah,
he's tall and slender.
Yeah, he's Let me see if I can find that really quick.
Bruce, maybe you could check that out for us. Yeah, Sean, the Cardinals lost yesterday 11-1 to the Rangers.
Good. I'm glad they're finally playing some. His primary pitch is 92 to 94 miles per hour with the four-seam fastball. So he can get it up there 92, 94, mix in that slider curve and change up. So
Hey, thanks, Vizzo Joe. We appreciate that, man. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us and continuing to put comments out there, man. You guys make the show a lot easier. You guys give us more to talk about, and make the show a little bit easier to fill time here. But yeah, their farm system is awesome, Sean. I can't wait to start seeing some of these guys. Like I said, it's all just going to come down to timing. It's all going to be timing. How can they all be good at the same time? Is the question.
Can they all make it work?
And can they all be on the rookie contracts at the same time? Because we know if these guys are amazing, guys like BCA, it's tough to ask the Cubs to pay him. So yeah, it's all going to be about timing. It's good. The championship window for the Cubs, if they plan on not paying people, it's going to be very small.
Well, we got about 5 minutes to first pitch, and I don't want to keep Cub fans from watching the Cubs game. So let's take a look ahead at what's going to be a brutal 12 games for the Chicago Cubs. And we're not going to go past next weekend, but right after the Tigers, right after we go to Motown, we go to Philadelphia. So that's part of the 12-game stretch. We got 2 left here with the Reds, and I know this is incorrect because they switched it up on me, and I didn't have time to switch the graphic. But it will be Pomeranz piggybacking with Ben Brown today versus Lodolo. We got Taillon at Wrigley versus Martinez tomorrow. I'm giving the Cubs, and this is going to suck, guys. I'm giving the Cubs a split there in that. And then we move to Washington. Well, this is going to be the best lineup that Cade Horton has faced in his young career. As we stated earlier, the Washington had a 7-game losing streak. They've seemed to bounce back. I think they've won now 9 of their last 13 after yesterday. So they are hot. We are in Washington. What do you think of this series, Kyle? Bruce, we're going to get you in here in just 1 second, buddy.
Well, Sean, I'd be lying to you if I told you I've watched a bunch of Washington Nationals baseball this year, because I simply haven't. But I mean, I hope that this Cubs offense starts to get going a little bit. They actually seem like they've been a little more comfortable on the road lately than they have been at home. So I think the Cubs offense will start to get rolling here a little bit. I'm going to say that the Cubs take 2 out of 3 from the Washington Nationals. I know they've been playing well, Sean, but ultimately, if you look at them on paper, they're a pretty average team. They have a lot of good prospects, but these guys still have a lot of growing to do. I think the Cubs are a better team than the Nationals. I don't think that's even a question. Obviously, you can look at the record. It speaks for itself. I think the Cubs go into Washington, and they take 2 out of 3. And I think Horton gets that win too, Sean. I think the game I'm watching, keep my eye on is Gore. The game 2 there, because I know
Gore.
He's been good, really good late. I mean, I know those numbers aren't bad at all. 3.16 ERA is not bad, but he's been even better as of late. So Gore's the one that's the one that scares me a little bit. And like I said, Sean, Matthew Boyd and Colin Ray, it's always kind of like who knows what you're gonna get. So yeah, I do expect the Cubs to lose one of those games. I think Cade Horton is actually gonna end up just getting better and better and better as the season goes on. And obviously, Sean, he's gonna have some bad days. Everybody does. Not a big deal. But yeah, by the end of the season, I expect Cade Horton to look like a major league pitcher, and he already has.
And then we move to Motown. And this, I can tell you guys, was circled on the calendar. Was not circled on the calendar at the beginning of the year as a series that was going to be super tough. But they will be. I put that up there. They will be on Apple TV next Friday night. And we're only going to pick to game 2 here because Kyle want to have a watch party. The Cubs will be on at 12 with us next week against Taillon versus our old Cardinal rival, Mr. Flattery. So in our 8 games here, I'll tell you, I have the Cubs losing 2 or 3 in Detroit, but I'm going to give them a split here. And my record, I'm going to have them with 3 losses and 2, 2, 3. I'm going to have them 4-3 in these 7 games this week because I think it's going to be an incredibly tough stretch here for the Cubs. These next 12 days, man, I hope Cub fans are ready. It's either going to be very rocky and disappointing, or we're going to continue to surprise some people. I don't know where my faith level is because Detroit has been sensational in Detroit this year. I think they only have like 6 losses at home. So that'll be a tough series next weekend in Motown. What are your thoughts on the Detroit Tigers and the Chicago Cubs?
I think the Tigers are going to take 2 or 3, Sean, just because it's in their house, and the Tigers right now are the best team in Major League Baseball. So, and that's no knock to the Cubs. The Tigers are beating everybody, so don't feel bad about it, Cubs fans, if they go into their house and lose 2 out of 3. But yeah, I'm going to take the split for the game that goes up till Saturday, till we'll be on this podcast again, and I got them going 2-1 against the Nationals. And Sean, I think they're going to beat the Cardinals two games in a row here. The Reds, because they're at home, and that Reds. The Abbott is their best pitcher. He's the one who can get them into the 7th, 8th inning. The Reds bullpen has been absolutely atrocious. At least when they're playing the Cubs, they have not been good. So I do think the Cubs, if they can chase the starter out of the game, they can win these 2 games at home here. So I'm going to pick them to go 2-0 against the Reds, 2-1 against the Nationals, and 1-1 against Detroit.
So you have them at 5-2, and I'm at 4-3. Yep. Bruce, what you got there, bud?
I think 4-2.
Oh, 7 games. 7 games.
7 games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, 7 games. Oh, 7 games.
7.
So, I'm trying to do my math here.
So you think 4-3 or 5-2, Bruce?
Or 7-0.
5-2. 5-2.
5-2.
Yeah.
All right. I got Kyle. Kyle and Bruce. I'm the pessimist this week and have the Cubs at 4-3.
Sean, they just got it. We talked about this yesterday. They got to get into that Reds bullpen.
Yeah.
You got to get in there. For some reason, the Cubs cannot hit Reds starting pitchers. You got to get in the bullpen as soon as you possibly can, because the last few times they got in their bullpen early, they absolutely destroyed them. And I just don't think there's anybody in the Reds bullpen. If you look at the Reds manager, you look at his face, there's nobody in that bullpen that he's confident in to come in and face this Cubs lineup. There's just there's nobody there. Nobody's done it. Nobody's done it every time. Sean, Abbott was amazing yesterday. Amazing. He allowed 1 hit against the Cubs. The second he left the game, the Cubs scored 2 runs. The second he left the game, they scored 2 runs. I mean, immediately.
That Santilli guy, I want him to come up against the Cubs every freaking week, strike.
Yeah.
All
right, guys.
We got a 2-1.
Vizzo Joe, thanks for joining us, man. All right, everybody. We appreciate you. You guys, everybody go watch the Cubs game, man. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun. Be safe.
Oh, okay.
Bruce, Sean, it's always a pleasure.
Yep.
Always a pleasure, Bruce. We love you. Everybody in the chat, thank you. God bless. And let's hopefully have a successful Cubs week, and we'll check y'all next week.
Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, everybody. Pomerantz. Oh, Swaggy McNolegs. McNolegs is in the house.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate you, brother. We appreciate all of y'all for jumping in, man. And until next week. And Drew Pomerantz is got 2 up and 2 down on 5 pitches. That's a great start for the Chicago Cubs, who have been leaky in the first inning this season. Yes. But again,
David Cruz is up. Don't speak too soon.
I'm not gonna get too excited yet. But all right, here we go, boys. Until next week, we love y'all.
Yeah, thanks, Swaggy. Thanks, John. Thanks, Joe. We love the boys.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on Monday for the Hallis Hall Hangover. So check us out. See you Monday evening
7 p.m.
7 p.m. our new start time. We love y'all. Bear down. Come up. Let's go.